When we're young, dreaming feels natural. Our hearts are wide open, our futures feel limitless, and hope comes easily. But somewhere between falling in love, building a life, carrying responsibilities, and surviving the daily grind, many couples quietly stop dreaming together. In this episode, we're talking about the power of shared dreams, how God plants desires in our hearts, how marriage invites us to hold someone else's vision alongside our own, and what happens when those dreams get lost or reborn along the way. Through heartfelt stories of unrealized dreams, renewed purpose, and couples who chose unity over comfort, we'll explore why dreaming together isn't just romantic, it's vital. Because when a husband and wife align their hearts, trust God with their future, and move forward as one, their marriage becomes more than maintenance, it becomes a mission. Welcome to Marriage Life and More. This is a podcast about marriage, Bible, and book studies, and we interview people that have inspiring stories. I'm Daniel Moore, your host, and sitting over here next to me once again is my beautiful co-host, my wife, Michelle.
Hey.
Thank you guys for joining us this week. If you're not familiar with our show, check out our website at marriagelifeandmore.com. Our platforms are there. YouTube and Rumble links are also on the Christian podcasting app Edify, and we're also on your Alexa and Google smart devices. You can also visit us on social on Facebook, Instagram, and X at CT Gap Online. If you're a fan of our show, please subscribe. Feel free to leave a comment on our platforms, give us a thumbs up or a 5-star review on Apple Podcast, and we thank you in advance for doing that. Well, we've reached a milestone this week. We are in our last episode of our series on Marriage Reset. It's just hard to believe that we've already made it there.
It's went by so fast.
I know. And
we've learned so much.
We have, and there's been a lot of episodes.
Yes.
It started out a 12-episode series, but obviously a lot of these were broken into 2 parts, 3 parts, 4 parts. So it's been going on for a while, but we have covered so much territory, and I hope all of you out there have picked something from it, whether if you're going through a difficult marriage or not. There's been really good applications that's been made that could go even for people with good, solid marriages.
Look at us. We've learned stuff from it.
So we really hope that this has been a good series for you. So just looking here a little ahead, we are going to do this one in probably 2 parts is what we're going to try to do with this one. And then we have some special episodes coming after this is done. And so you have something there to look forward to, something a little bit different again from what we typically do. And then we'll be looking at probably getting back into another series. So that's what we can look forward to here in the future as we are looking forward here on Marriage Life and More. Well, this week, as I said, we're going to go ahead and start episode 12, the last episode of our series on Marriage Reset, Roommates to Soulmates in Your Marriage. This week, we're talking about when dreams don't go as planned. Life has taught us that love does not consist of gazing at each other, but in looking outward together in the same direction. That was a statement made by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. Erin Smalley was at a women's Bible study group one day when the leader asked a fascinating question. What were your dreams as a young girl? She perked up thinking, I love talking about dreams. Over the next hour, she learned more about those women than she knew about some of her closest friends. The women talked about their dreams of marrying a farmer, becoming a seamstress, a teacher, or a nurse, and one woman even wanted to become an astronaut. Through tears and laughter, each woman disclosed her unique journey, recalling the turning points and the circumstances that caused her to walk away from these early aspirations. It was heartbreaking to hear the regrets, the sense of failure, the frustrations and disappointments of unrealized dreams. But it was powerful to hear about God's faithfulness and how He placed new desires in their hearts, brought different opportunities, opened new doors, and delivered unexpected blessings to each woman. When we were kids, we often imagined our future lives without hesitation or doubt. Childhood was a season where imagination soared freely, and the future felt wide open. Now, as a little guy, I could see myself jet-setting around the globe as a pilot, becoming a firefighter, becoming a DJ, being in a rock band, but my biggest dream was becoming a police officer. Michelle, I'm sure you had your own list.
I did.
We all have those things that as we grow up, we just look at those and we say that's what we want to do someday, because dreaming, it seems, is built into us. Mm-hmm. Our Creator placed special longings in our hearts, giving each of us distinct strengths and passions for a greater purpose. Then comes that life-changing moment when you fall in love. Suddenly, it's not just about your dreams anymore. You now hold someone else's vision next to yours, and together, your dreams start to blend. Think back to the early days of your relationship, those long talks about the future during late-night drives or over cups of coffee. Most couples, especially when newly engaged or seriously dating, dream big. They map out life, how many children they'll have, where they'll settle down, what careers they'll pursue, dream vacations that they're going to take, and how their magical wedding celebration will unfold. But then, reality shows up. As marriage life picks up speed, the pace often becomes relentless. We understand that managing a partnership, keeping a home running, keeping up with work, raising kids, and dealing with a constant list of responsibilities can be exhausting. In that chaotic rhythm, dreaming becomes rare. You shift into maintenance mode, just trying to keep things afloat. Sadly, many couples don't even realize they've stopped dreaming. They just begin to feel more like housemates than soulmates. At a recent gathering centered on marriage, a question was asked: what does it look like to dream as a couple? The reactions were heartfelt. One couple after another came forward, many in tears, confessing that somewhere along the way, they had let their shared dreams drift away. And that realization was deeply painful. Dreaming together matters. It does something special. It reintroduces intimacy, trust, and hope into a relationship. When couples dream side by side, they build a deeper, more meaningful bond that strengthens the heart of their marriage. Here's a few things that dreaming together will accomplish as couples. It strengthens your commitment. Couples who share a vision of the future want to stay together. Dreaming implies that you anticipate a hopeful future together. It also nurtures your partnership and helps you strengthen your unity and teamwork. It creates intimacy by allowing you to glimpse into your spouse's heart, their innermost thoughts and feelings. It gives your marriage a clear direction. It helps you live intentionally by clarifying what is really important to you as a couple. It also inspires romance. Find a couple who dreams about their future together, and you're going to find two people that are madly in love. It also reawakens passion. It's exciting and energizing to think about what can be accomplished together. And I know as I look back on my life, I did have dreams about my future, not just in the aspect of what my job would be or my career would end up being. I did have things that I expected for when I finally got married, had kids, had a home, all that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, I am one of those that those dreams didn't really pan out the first time around. And you're the same way, We both went a direction, got married, we had kids, all that stuff took place. But I think I can see where, just as we've started this episode today, the way it's been described here, I can see where in my own life even, where the dreaming did stop at one point. And then all of a sudden, anything that was ever positive that I looked at towards marriage started to just crumble before me. And then I was in the middle of something that I never dreamed in my lifetime that I wanted to be in. But as we look at these points here, when we dream together as couples, and so let's bring it up to now, you and I are married, and yes, we've been through a lot of stuff we never dreamed about being in the middle of either.
No, not at all.
Ours didn't start off quite like a fairy tale either at the beginning of ours. But as we've discussed many, many times, we have reached a height in our marriage at this point where we've never been, as far as really enjoying our life together. And I can honestly say that here in the last the last year since we've moved forward and started making positive change in our marriage, I feel like we've dreamed a lot.
Yeah.
I think now we actually look forward and we start thinking about what comes next.
Yeah.
What's our next big adventure? And I also feel like that because we have that positive thought process in our marriage, would you agree that it has strengthened our commitment?
Oh, absolutely.
That it's nurtured our partnership?
Yeah.
Gives our marriage a more clear direction?
Yeah.
When you look at all those points, what do you think about those when you think about a good, solid marriage versus where we used to be and how we've made that change in things?
When I think about, like, as it says, it strengthens our commitment and it gives us a direction. I mean, if you really put together the two of us and putting our dreams together, we're both focusing on the things together, not separately. And in the past, it had been, that's your dream, this is my dream.
Right.
And now it's a marriage and it's what it should be. Okay, hey, you are still going to have your individual dreams as I am going to have mine. But we have some that are together.
Yeah.
And it's like walking hand in hand. And it's like, oh, cool, look where we're at now. What is it going to be for the next time? Like, what is our dream and what are we going to do? God, show us.
Yeah.
You know, what is it? How are you going to help us get there? If that door is going to open, we know that you're going to open it, you know, and if it's not meant to be, close it, you know, and it's like we both go into it looking together as one.
And, you know, you and I...
It's exciting.
Yeah, we're very strong in the fact that we don't like doing things separated if it's on the scale of a big thing. Now, like you said, I love that you brought it up because if you didn't, I was going to. The fact that we do have our own individual dreams still.
And you should.
And we still try to get those. We try to follow those dreams and make them happen. But it does change it just a little bit because even though I do have my own dreams, I still have to keep our dreams in mind as well.
Absolutely.
Because we don't want those dreams to overpower one another or whatever. Because obviously in the end, the dreams that you and I have together probably take precedent over what our just personal dreams are. But I can say that when it talks here about it inspires romance or it reawakens passion, it helps you live intentionally by clarifying what's really important to you as a couple. When I read those types of things, I think about all the trips we take, the special places that we go. Sometimes it's just me and you going somewhere and just enjoying several days together somewhere, and that creates so many memories. And I cherish that.
Yeah.
I would never think of sending you off to Colorado, you wanting both of us to go. And then I'm like, well, that's not my dream. That's yours. Go ahead and go. And you end up going by yourself. People do that, and I understand there's nothing wrong with that at all.
But this is our dream.
But in the essence, for us, I couldn't do that because I want to share that with you.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll never have those memories of us being together, climbing the mountains and going to the lakes out in the middle of nowhere, losing cell service because we're nowhere near a cell tower. I mean, you get out in those mountains and stuff, it's beautiful. And it's just an opportunity that it's just you two. You can talk about things. It's
more intimate.
Just have a good intimate relationship.
Yeah, more intimate time of just you and I.
Yeah.
And nothing to distract.
And so if we never had those dreams and we never even thought about doing anything like that, I see where we could potentially miss out on so much closeness and connection.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes we have to get away from the busyness of life. We have to get away from work. We have to get away from our hometown. We have to get away from things that takes up so much of our time individually so that we can do stuff together.
Yeah.
And make sure those dreams happen. So one of the most remarkable effects of dreaming together in a relationship is the incredible energy it generates when two people move forward as one. According to the Oxford English Dictionary, synergy refers to the combined efforts of individuals producing an outcome that exceeds the total of their individual contribution. In other words, when you and your spouse unite your strengths, perspectives, backgrounds, and passion, something extraordinary happens. It's no longer just about what each person can accomplish alone. It's about the amplified power that comes when you work in harmony.
I like that.
This kind of unity isn't just useful, it's transformative. It becomes a superpower, a divine sort of teamwork that can make a lasting impact. When both partners are in sync, their influence and effectiveness can multiply beyond what they could ever imagine. And you and I can vouch for that. Anything that we've done, this podcast is an example. I've done it for a long time on my own. It started out one of my dreams. And so that's how I started it. And when it finally came down to a little over a year ago, when I asked you to join, because I really felt like with our testimony, God really wanted us to do something with that. And you'd prayed about it and you agreed that you would go ahead and come on the podcast with me.
Well, it took a while.
It did, but you finally made that step. And this podcast has seen tremendous growth since then. And I think it just goes to prove that when two people come together, it just becomes that much more powerful, and you can accomplish so much more when you're both like-minded and have that dream in front of you that you're both trying to reach.
Yeah.
I think that helps a lot.
And I think that dream is burdened by God too.
Yeah.
To God be the glory for the podcast. If it wasn't for him, this podcast would not. In all reality, we wouldn't be here today. I definitely would not be talking on this podcast if it was not for him.
Yeah. And we wouldn't have ventured out into helping marriage in crisis and premarital stuff and just different things that we try to be open and available so that God can use us in whatever ways that we can.
Following your dream and staying on it.
Yeah.
Even though you asked me at first and I was like, no, God knew where it needed to be.
Yeah. And so all of you listening, just think about, your scenario. What is it, if you aren't doing something right now together as a couple, what are some things that you've dreamed about that you could do with your spouse, and it would be so much more powerful if you brought them into the equation, and the powerhouse that you both could be for God and for your marriage if you both just, came together on that. It just gives you something to think about. So this kind of unity isn't just for personal gain. It's meant to be used to serve and uplift others. One verse that highlights this beautifully in the Bible is Hebrews 13:16, which reminds us not to pass up opportunities to do good and share what we have, because such acts of generosity honor God. Real generosity involves giving up something valuable or something that we care about. That level of giving reflects love at its highest. God fills our lives with blessings, not so that we can hoard them, but so that we can pour them out onto other people.
Yes.
He calls us to be givers, not just receivers, and to live out our love for him by showing love to those around us.
That's so good.
That makes me think of, being blessed to be a blessing.
Yes.
There's lots of songs that we've sang in church before that, mentions that. If our goal as Christians is to pour into other people the way that God has poured into us. A powerful real-life example of this is the story of Charles and Esther Mully. Their journey is featured in the film Mully, which tells the inspiring true account of Charles' transformation. As a young child in Kenya, Charles was abandoned and forced to survive on the streets. But over time, he overcame enormous odds and built a life most people would envy. He had a successful career, a beautiful family, and wealth. But everything changed after a few street kids stole his car. That moment caused him to question whether his life's focus was truly aligned with his faith and purpose. In a radical act of surrender, Charles made the life-altering decision to sell his business and commit to helping homeless children, kids who, like him, had no one. He started taking these children in, eventually founding the Mully Children's Family, which has become the largest children's rescue and development organization in Africa. He is now celebrated as a father to thousands of forgotten children. Wow. What stood out most in that story was not just Charles' sacrifice, but also Esther's. Imagine the shock of hearing your spouse say they're giving away the lifestyle that you've built together to care for strangers. And then within a day, welcoming your first orphans home with no warning. Esther's world must have been turned upside down. But what's truly beautiful is that over time, Charles' calling became Esther's calling too. His passion turned into their shared mission. Together, they turned their God-given unity and purpose into a force for good that has impacted countless lives. Christian singer Stephen Curtis Chapman and his wife Mary Beth have a similar Mully moment in their marriage as well. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. But this is a good example here where if spouses aren't on the same page and they try to align their dreams together, and the Bible tells us that we should to live in unity. If we don't live in unity, one person's fighting against the other because they want to both venture off on separate paths. Stuff like this doesn't happen.
That's a good point.
Because it's real difficult for one person to follow a big dream, especially like this one. That's a life-changing dream that if it doesn't pan out, you can go bankrupt real quick. And that's a huge choice that you have to make. And that had to be a God thing in order for that to turn out like it did and for Esther to change her mind, because that's just like you and I, if we came up and, you decided that you was going to quit your job and start doing something like this, and then that's dropped in my lap one day just out of the blue, and then I'm sitting there thinking in shock, like, oh, how are we going to pay the bills? It's like, how are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? The minds and the gears start running. That definitely you have to bring God in that equation to get that peace to make that choice and move on with it. Because if you make a bad choice in the flesh and you start moving that direction, a lot of times that won't pan out because God's blessing is not on it. You'll find out that you'll be fighting against each other as spouses to attain a dream rather than coming together and unifying and trying to make that dream happen. We always have to let those keep going forward.
So good.
So Michelle, go ahead and pick up here as we share another instance here with Stephen Curtis Chapman and his wife.
A real-life story that mirrors the themes of perseverance, shared dreams, divine timing, and adoption is the journey of Mary Beth and Stephen Curtis Chapman when they adopted their daughter Maria. Mary Beth and Stephen, a renowned Christian musician, had 3 biological children and a full life already. But over time, Mary Beth began feeling a strong pull toward adoption, especially from watching a video on Chinese orphans. Initially, Stephen was hesitant. He was busy with music commitments and adoption wasn't on his radar. However, Mary Beth shared her growing desire with him, and instead of shutting her down, he admitted he didn't fully understand it, but was willing to pray about it. That small step opened the door for God to begin aligning their hearts. Eventually, they traveled together to China and adopted a beautiful little girl. What followed was the birth of a renewed vision in their marriage, a shared calling to advocate for orphans and help families adopt. Their personal journey led them to found Show Hope, an organization that provides grants and supports for adopted families, making the process more accessible for others. Though their mission started with one daughter, it didn't stop there. The Chapmans went on to adopt 2 more girls from China, Stevie Joy and Maria. Their story deepened in 2008 when Maria, their youngest, tragically passed away in an accident at home. The grief was immeasurable, and Mary Beth has spoken honestly about the emotional and spiritual anguish she faced. Yet, in the sorrow, they found a renewed purpose. They believed that Maria's life, though short, carried internal impact. Mary Beth later wrote a book titled Choosing to See, detailing her journey through adoption, faith, heartache, and healing. She shares how she questioned God, how painful the rejection and pain could be, even when you believe you're following His call, but also how God used every moment for something larger than she or Stephen could have planned. Their adoption story follows a familiar pattern. An individual desire becomes a shared mission. Doubts and delays arise. God confirms their calling through peoples and events. Heartbreak and healing showcase God's faithfulness. Even in the deepest pain, their commitment to the calling they shared never wavered. They turned tragedy into purpose, growing their ministry and impacting thousands of families worldwide. The journey to bring a child into their family wasn't linear or easy. It required faith, unity, relentless love, and trust that even amid delays or heartbreak, God's timing and purpose would prevail. And just like that moment by the lakeshore in Wisconsin, clarity came when they sought God together, creating a beautiful legacy out of shared obedience. Just as the Lord continued to bring peace, assurance, and joy, amid waiting for their dream to come to pass, He will meet you in your journey of pursuing the desires He has placed in your heart and your dreams. Let Him lead and let Him bring the confirmations along the way. He knows what will speak intimately to your hearts, and you will feel His presence.
Those are two really good stories about huge decisions that were made by a couple, and God just got right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And made a big difference with what they were doing. And these ministries are still going today. You can go online and check all of those out. It comes back to the point where if they had not had a dream within their marriage, then it would not have happened. Because they chose to follow that dream, so many lives were touched with what they did. As we opened up this episode today, we were talking a little bit about at the very beginning of marriage, we're so excited because we have all of these things that we look down the road that we're expecting this marriage to look like. It's kind of fairy tale-ish to a point because we have all these dreams, these aspirations, these things that we want to accomplish. But as we've talked about a few times here on the podcast, the honeymoon stage usually lasts a couple of years before true life really sets in. And then you have to start navigating what being married really is. You have jobs, you have responsibilities, bills to pay, upkeep on homes if you've purchased one. You start deciding if you're going to have kids. If you do have kids, then your life starts revolving around kids' activities and school and work and all of that. And I can see how it's real easy to push those dreams back on the back burner and not accomplish what you're out to accomplish. And this isn't something about where you have to try to think of the big, huge dream that is almost unattainable anyway, whether if you have kids or not.
Yeah.
This is just even about the small stuff. Because if we always dream huge, which they always say you need to dream big and try to attain your dreams, and I understand the concept behind that. But sometimes I think if we have these big, huge dreams, sometimes we kind of forget about the little dreams too, just the small things that makes a difference. Also, it's real easy to dream about wanting to go on some big extravagant vacation someday, or create this big, huge nonprofit that's going to save the world, or all of that kind of thing, but then totally forget about dreaming about just having a good marriage, just having a loving relationship between your spouse, just having moments together, just doing something small and simple just to build the love that you have between each other. It's real easy to start overlooking all of those small dreams. Mm-hmm. And if we're not careful, that stuff is what actually damages the relationship.
Yeah.
That's the stuff where your marriage can start becoming mundane, feel like it's in a rut, feel like that you're just existing in a couple scenario with a home and some kids, constantly chasing this, chasing that, exhausted. All of that stuff can start happening if we don't try to make sure that we nurture the dreams in our marriages that we should have to try to keep those together. But so this week's going to be just a little bit shorter. We're going to cut this off right here. Do you have anything that you want to add to it?
No, I don't have anything else to say on this one. This is good.
Well, we'll go ahead and cut it off for this week then. Next week when we come back, we'll finish this up, and it may be more of a 40 to 45 minute episode to finish this, but we just want to make sure that the last two sections, we keep them together. Dreams are very important in relationships. And a lot of times if you talk to people that their marriages are failing or their marriages have failed, you will eventually get to the core issue that they'll either admit that they quit dreaming, or you can tell by listening to their story that they don't have any dreams anymore. They've just given up, and they have no desire to move forward with their relationship. And so I can't think of any better way to end this series on resetting your marriage than to have this reminder that we have to have dreams.
Yeah, that's good.
If we don't have dreams in our marriage as we look forward and try to attain those dreams and keep nurturing that intimacy, that love, that connection that we have with our spouse, then we are in a very dangerous position to become roommates, just like what we've been talking about over these last several months in this series. So next week when we come back, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this episode on dreams in our marriage, and we'll be wrapping up the whole series, actually, as we'll be finishing that up. So you might want to make sure you're subscribed if you're not, to receive that notification whenever that time comes. You can visit our website at marriagelifeandmore.com. All of our links are there for where you can listen to the episodes. You can also reach out to us from there with the contact form or by email at daniel@connectingthegap.net as well. So since we're getting through this series, it'd be nice to hear from some people if maybe this has helped you a little bit as we went through this series. If maybe your marriage was in a bad situation and you maybe applied some of this stuff we've talked about over the last few months and it's actually worked and helped revive your marriage, we'd love to hear some testimonies like that, and even be able to possibly share them anonymously if you would let us. So please reach out if you can, have something you'd like to say. For now, though, we're going to go. And we pray that after this week's episode, that your marriage is stronger and your walk with God is closer. This is an extension of Connecting the Gap Ministries, and we pray that you have a blessed week.